were a film kid or film school kid or something, and that gets you in the door.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, even with those office PA jobs though, everybody wants somebody that they don't basically, they don't want to have to read your resume and they don't want to have to like check anything. They don't want to have to
Mm-hmm.
call anybody. So if you get recommended from someone else, that means they don't have to call any references and they don't have to really look at your resume too hard. So like
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is like no one wants to do any extra work because every time you start a show, you have to hire like 20 million people. So I think people just don't want to call anybody's references is the main thing. They don't want to have to do due diligence. So if
Mm-hmm.
their friend recommends them, that's it. Well, so as far as like demographics, I mean, it could be as simple as like, I got the showrunner's assistant position in a really weird way of like, and this happens a lot. My mom, her boyfriend at the time, his sister was married to someone who had a cousin who was the showrunner. It was a really
Okay.
weird connection, and my mom's really talkative and friendly, very opposite me, and she talks to everyone everywhere, and somehow she got this information, and they said you should email him, you should email him. So the woman that was his cousin-in-law, emailed and connected us, and then we met. Well, my mom's Jewish and white and went to high school in Cherry Hill, and her boyfriend was Jewish and white. And so his family was Jewish and white. And so my boss was Jewish and white from the same high school where my mom went. It was just like,
Oh, wild.
so that connection like when you think about people hire people, they know, like, no, well, we already had that similar connection. So one, we had similar personalities because of that, but he also already like had this weird connection of like, you kind of know my family. Like I wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
when people are like, it's who you know, well, it's kind of who you know. Like it gets you to an interview. But when I interviewed with him, we were like, just had similar personalities, but because we came from a similar place, of
Right.
course we're
Yeah.
going to have similar personalities. So in that way, he's a white guy high up. Yeah, that definitely helped me, a white girl from a similar area, get that job just by the consequence of it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that was really interesting in the room that I noticed early on is we had a script coordinator that was a guy, and he had been on the show it was his second season. And we also had a writer's assistant that had originally had my job, and she moved up to writer's assistant. And she was young, but they treated her
Mm-hmm.
like she was younger than she was. But the guy, they always acted as if they were like sorry he had to have the job as script coordinator. Like, I noticed in the room when he would pitch, one, I didn't think he was a funny guy at all. Like I'm very strong judge of comedy, and like he would pitch jokes in the room and everyone would like fake laugh or laugh harder. I was like, that's just not funny. Or they would laugh harder. And I told the other writer's assistant, who was a woman, and I was like, are they like faking? And she was like, yeah, like they always like feel bad for him. Like they felt bad for him because he was like a man in the role. And like he shouldn't have to be like, he didn't get to move up to staff, and it was just like this. And like my boss even told him like my boss had told him like, you need to talk more in the room. And I was just like, it just seemed really unfair that like everybody was like rooting for him to become a writer, but he wasn't that funny and he didn't pitch that much in the room. And he tried not at all to be sweet or to be friendly with people. He let people come to them. He didn't try that hard to be like personable at all. Like he specifically, like I befriended both of them. That was my like strategic, like be friends with both of them. If one of them move up, I want that job. And like I asked him one time, like, to learn, just like I had asked with everyone else. And he told me he could teach me some script coordinator things. And then I told him I'd even pay you. Well, I went out to lunch with him, paid for his lunch, and I paid him to teach me. And I was just like, that's really weird. Like, I would never do that.
Yeah.
It was just such a weird thing. But like, that's how it was. A weird thing with him is like everyone felt guilty that he wasn't moving up to writer, and everyone would laugh harder at his jokes, and everyone would give him more opportunities, and there was no real reason for it. Like he was a fine person, but like he really brought nothing to, like, if you brought him to a party, he brings nothing to a party. He's like had a very dull personality, and for someone that's supposed to be a comedy writer, I was like, you're not doing anything in the room. Like, versus the other girl was like really trying and pitching, but like, and they liked her and appreciated her, but it was just like, they didn't feel guilty. There was no guilt in her not becoming a writer.
Yeah. That is incredibly frustrating, like comparing those two experiences, and even like your experience of I'm trying to like befriend everyone and I'm being sweet, I'm being kind, I'm going and getting the dinners, right? Like going above and beyond, and like you didn't have the experience of people being like feeling guilty or
Never.
pity laughing, right? Like they're knitting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I've specifically after I got in a car accident, I was kind of that was definitely like, what am I doing? Because like no one seemed to give a shit. Like I got in a car accident. I make no money here. I got in a car accident getting you guys food for dinner,
Right.
like, and there was just like no guilt from them, and I just was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And like what's behind all of that is infuriating.
Yeah.
Okay, I have like one more kind of question for
Okay.
you. Um so I'm also curious about how you have, like, if you have seen representations of assistants like in The Assistant or BoJack Horseman episodes. There was like the 2 episodes where they went on strike, or like The Devil Wears Prada or Set It Up, etc.
Yeah.
If you've seen any of those and what you thought, or even like Entourage, I guess,
Yeah.
and what you thought, what you think maybe the most or least accurate representations you've seen have been.
I didn't see The Assistant because I told it was told it was very slow, so I never saw it. And then I tried really hard to get to the BoJack Assistant episode, but I have to watch it in order. And even though I like the show, I have a hard time getting into it. So I haven't gotten to
Fair.
that episode either, but I have seen The Devil Wears Prada. Um, and I actually, when I first started out, I worked as an assistant production accountant,
Mm.
and I was an assistant there, and I had a boss, and it was like I was not her assistant. I was an assistant production accountant, so it was like I was just an assistant level. I wasn't her assistant, but
Mm-hmm.
there was a weird manipulation in the role of like I remember now so specifically of like we had a lot of work to do, and they were like we could come in on the week. It was a really small company, only like 10 of us, maybe less. She was like we needed to finish this tax credit for this movie we worked on. And like, it's hard to do it during the week because there's so many calls, there's so much going on, and emails. We never get to like just focus on these spreadsheets we need to fill out. And I remember them being like, my boss and another accountant being like, it would just be easy if we could do it on the weekend. And I remember being like, I don't mind working on the week. Like, I could do it. It would definitely be easier without all the stuff going on. And it didn't occur to me, like, I didn't get paid for that day. Like, I volunteered my
Mm-hmm.
work. I was probably making like $40,000 living in New York City. So I could barely afford to pay rent at all. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember like I just worked for free on a Saturday. I didn't get paid extra for it. It was just like a free day of labor, and she didn't feel the need to pay me or do anything. I just like think about that, and I was like, I was just too naive and too young. But as far as like the representation in Devil Wears Prada, obviously, and I have never experienced anything that bad. I did work at FX as an intern,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the only time I've been in a place. I guess that, and the other time I was way back in the industry. I'm 36 now, so I started in the industry in 2007, and I one interned at a talent agency, and the way they treated the assistants was so bad that I was like, I don't want to ever work with agents. They're terrible people. The part of the job is just like yelling at them to do things, and like the assistants like run around and they have to be perfect and they have to call things out perfect. And it was just insanity to me, and they were making no money, and it was just like, what is this? And then the worst part is you watch actors come in and they fawn over the actors and they like kiss their ass, and then they turn around and like treat their assistants like crap, and the hierarchy of it was disgusting. And
Mm.
This was the first time I moved to LA right out of college, and I remember sitting at a table, and for whatever awkward reason, I was the only one there, and then all the agents, because the assistants would eat together and the agents would eat together, I don't know. But I was there, and then the agents all joined me, and I didn't feel comfortable talking, so I didn't say anything, but I was just eating lunch. And I remember them discussing organic ketchup, and I was like, I gotta leave. I cannot live in this city.
Organic ketchup?
I just remember them having a debate about eating